it's me, Jeanette. How are you? Hope you've been well. In today's video, I'm going to be doing some die cutting for cards and journaling. So basically a little bit of a stash building session. So I am cleaning up my Sizzix die cutting machine, and this is a Big Shot die cutting machine with a 6-inch wide platform. And this is my die cutting machine that I've had in storage for a few years. The white one that you're used to seeing was my UK die cutting machine, but I sold that one. And so because I had this one waiting, and yeah, it would have saved me like a lot of luggage space. I saved a lot of luggage space selling the other die cutting machine, but what's funny is that this one has a lot more pressure, which I noticed right away, and it was very surprising. But anyway, let me know what kind of die cutting machine you have. Maybe you don't have a die cutting machine, or you don't know what a die cutting machine is. It basically cuts out, it's a machine that has these rollers. So it cuts paper with a die, which you're going to see some different kinds of dies and paper. So it cuts shapes through pressure. So you need die cutting machine, paper, and a die set. And when you roll that through your die cutting machine, you get the cutout of your shape. And I just thought I would explain that because so many people don't know what die cutting is, but you're going to see a lot of die cutting. So let's get started. I'm using the the leftover scrappy bits from my last video. And I trimmed that paper down because my die cutting machine is only 6 inches wide, so you need to trim your paper to smaller than 6 inches. Of course, there are other die cutting machines on the market which have a wider platform from like 9 inches to 12 by 12. And I don't know if there's anything bigger than that, but anywho, I'm using this die set it's a Christmas one. I want to say this is Simply Made Crafts, a back issue. If I find that on eBay, I will link it in the video description. But I'm pulling out the itty bitty pine tree die because I thought it was really cute, and I'm just super inspired by the forest lately because I'm currently living in the middle of the forest and it's pretty magical. And so I just wanted to die cut a bunch of little pine trees so that I can use them in upcoming like Christmas journaling, upcoming just like regular everyday kind of journaling, because I do a lot of hiking and walks on like nature trails, and I want to start journaling about that because I don't know, I always have really magical moments in the forest, and I would like to document some of those. And so I thought I better have a whole heap of these little pine trees just on hand, just in my stash, ready to go, so that I can pull those out as and when they're needed. So here are my little pine trees all cut out. I'm going to continue to die cut these, but I wanted to show you just how cute they are on just a simple white background. So you can just put like a row of these on a card and maybe add a little stamped sentiment on the bottom like Merry Christmas, and you could have a really quick and easy, very simple Christmas card ready to go. And I'm going to continue die cutting these, lining up my die as close as I can to my last die cut piece there, just to save on paper. And also you'll notice that I folded the paper in half so that I could cut 2 layers at a time. With the amount of pressure that this machine has, I probably could have put 3 layers of paper in. So if I had folded it in thirds, if I had folded it in thirds, I could cut 3 at a time. I'm pretty confident just because of the pressure on this machine. But usually with these type of thin dies, these wafer thin dies, it's just a little bit more difficult sometimes to cut thicker layers or like multiple layers of paper. But this one is cutting like butter what's the saying with the knife and the butter and the hot butter and the knife? No, a hot knife. Never mind, let's move on. So here I have some trees all cut out, and like I said, look how simple this card would be if I just lined up a bunch of little pine trees or even created a cluster. This would be a very quick and easy Christmas card, or maybe, I don't know, definitely something that you could do in a journaling layout. Create a little cluster of trees, a little forest, a little forest on your card there. Now I'm switching my dies. This is a Tim Holtz die, and I will have the link for you if this is still in circulation. If this is still for sale somewhere, I'll try to find it for you and link it in the video description. Now, the reason for the handwritten label is because this is a prototype from when I used to work at Sizzix, and we would sometimes get those sample and tester dies. We were super lucky. Anyway, great times. And if you'll notice, this die looks a lot different than the wafer thin die that I was using previously. This is a steel roll die. Did I say that already? I feel like I've said steel roll die like 10 times. Sorry about that. So it looks like a cartridge. It has like a plastic on the outside and then a foam. That's some black foam you see there. And in between the foam and the plastic is housed. It houses a very sharp blade, steel roll blade. And that can cut multiple layers of fabric, multiple layers of paper. So it's like a heavy duty kind of die set. And these are great for cutting fabric, cutting leather, cutting mat board, cutting multiple layers of fabric, multiple layers of paper, or like, did I say leather or felt? It can cut a lot. So these are great to have in your stash. And what I've done, as you might have noticed, I changed the platform on this because you don't need that base platform. You just need a cutting pad, the steel roll die, your paper, and another cutting pad on top, and you'll be all set. And here is what that looks like. It's absolutely stunning. Look how pretty it is. It is really big. I want to say this is like 4 inches, like 4 inches long and 3 inches wide. Now I'm grabbing another die from my storage stash, and this is, I want to say this is called a Sizzlet. So I'm not sure if these are still in circulation. I think they might have been discontinued, but this requires a different platform. So, I mean, the same base platform I was using before, but I opened up the platform to, I think it's tab 2. So there you see it's closed. And then I just open it back up to tab 2, pick out my paper, and I'm going to run it through the die cutting machine. So it's the platform on tab 2, a cutting pad, the paper, and then my Sizzlet on top, and then another cutting pad. And you'll notice that design is very similar to the the steel roll die from Tim Holtz. It's almost an identical shape, but it's just like a miniature of it. And you know that I love me some foliage dies, like anything foliage, any sprigs, any twigs, any leafy pattern I am absolutely crazy about. Next up, I'm cutting some script words from Tim Holtz, and I will have that number for you of the die set. But these are great. They're different sentiments for different occasions. And you guys, these cut so well, even though they're a very intricate script kind of font. They die cut perfectly, but I struggled like heck to try to get these out of the die. Now, I used my pokey tool, but every time I would get most of the word out, it would just rip because the script on it is so fine and the details are so fine. And then when I tried to use my pokey tool on the back of the die, it would pierce it or tear it. And what I recommend for this is to grab some wax paper and die cut your wax paper with your paper at the same time. So like your cardstock and a piece of wax paper, that should allow those intricate dies to come out if you're struggling to get them out of the die. But yeah, I really was having a hard time and I finally got an authentic out so successfully. So you can see it's a beautiful font design. And then I also got the word world out as well. So I was disappointed that these were so hard to work with. Also, I think just the pressure on my machine is just crazy. So we'll see. I'm going to have to get some wax paper and try them again and see how I fare, because yeah, like it's the time that it took me to try to pry it out of the die, it wasn't worth it. It just wasn't. It took me too long. So I'm going to try again with wax paper and I will get back to you. So here is another die from my storage stash, and there is that number, which I will have for you in the video description. And I'm going to die cut this from this beautiful like minty green paper. And it's funny, so a lot of the dies that I have in my stash, and the reason why I have so many dies in the first place is, again, these are sample prototypes from Sizzix. And it's just funny because now I know why they're prototypes, because, you know, they have to test the quality. They want to make sure the design is right. They want to make sure they have enough pokey tools. And this one definitely is missing a few pokey holes, I meant. This one's missing a few pokey holes because it's very difficult to get this paper out of the die. And so sometimes you might notice in your own dies, you're like, wish this had a pokey hole here. So it's a very common thing for die designers to forget to include pokey holes. Like, you don't know until you try it out yourself. You know, a design made on the computer is much different than a design that you use with your hands on and with paper. Like, it's so much different. That's why they do like testing and prototypes and quality control, because they want to make sure they get the dies right. So anywho, that was way too much on quality control and prototypes. But yeah, you'll notice maybe you have some dies that you're like, this could use another pokey hole on this die. I can't get this thing out. And a pokey hole is just a tiny little hole on the back side of a die, so that helps you to poke out the paper from the die, so you can get out your little shape without tearing it, without ripping it, without damaging it. So I've die cut multiples of every die that I have, and now I have a little stash to play with. And I love to, after I do a die building stash session, I like to just have a play and see if I can make, like, you know, kind of like card sample designs. Like, okay, this would make a quick and easy card, putting these dies like this, or this would look good in a journaling layout like this if I just kind of arranged it this way. So it's really fun to have a play with all of these shapes already all cut out for you. And yeah, so see, you could just make all kinds of different like card iterations. Am I saying that right? Just different designs, different combinations of dies to create different designs for your cards, or for journaling layouts, or for snail mail, or for anything else your heart desires. Well, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in a video real soon. Have a great week. Bye.